Nothing is as American as apple pie. Or is it? Now that it's officially fall, I would like to give you my variation of this delectable pastry. However, I would like to give you a little bit of history of its origins, and surprise, surprise, it's not American. Yes, it's from across the pond. I know, shocking, but why else would the pilgrims have come here if it were not to make delicious apple pie?
Connecting.
The first apple pie recipe was published in 1381 in a cookbook called The Form of Curry. The book was a 14th century collection of medieval English recipes. It was published under the name Tarts and Apples. This recipe is nothing like what we associate with apple pies today. It was not very sweet and only contained a minimal amount of sugar. Flash forward some centuries later and we finally see a more American version published in a cookbook called American Cookery by Amelia Simmons. There were actually two different pastry recipes that contained apples that were published in her book, one for apple pie and one for an apple tart. Apple pie became a staple in American cuisine due to its affordable nature, but did not become part of the American lexicon until the 20th century, when a New York Times editorial argued the national importance of apple pie. This prompted the phrase American as apple pie to be used in several publications and news stories. Though the origins are not quite clear, it is said to be popularized by another New York Times article in 1928 that used the phrase as American as apple pie or corn pone to describe the homemaking abilities of First Lady Lou Henry Hoover. And I guess the rest is history, or herstory. And however you may view this delectable treat, I do believe John Lindorf said it best. When you say that something is as American as apple pie, what you're really saying is the item came to this country from elsewhere and was transformed into a distinctly American experience.
Okay, since we are making our very special apple pie today, aka Lacey's version, we're going to need to make a crust. So this is the most simple crust that I've come across. It's easy. I think it's a no-fail. And this is kind of like a hybrid that I created. So this is 2.5 cups of flour with a 1/2 cup of butter. Yes, salted butter. We know I use salted. And this is a 1/2 cup of vegetable shortening. And then this is a tablespoon of sugar and a tablespoon of salt. I mix them together. I'm going to mix that in the flour shortly. And this is 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, and then a 1/4 cup of cold water, and my butter cubes are cold as well. Just had to mention that. This depends on your flour, and I learned that flour can be regional, meaning that it will take more or less water. So you just kind of have to figure out what your crust is supposed to look like, and I will show you that.
Okay, so we're going to use this today, which is a pastry mixer or pastry blender. I always used to think this was called a dough cutter, but it's not, and I don't know why I thought that. But anyway, so we're going to use this today so we can mix in our butter and mix in our shortening. But first of all, I'm going to add my salt and my sugar. So there's that. Put my 2 teaspoons of lemon juice in there just to help with the construction of it. And then I'm going to be let me mix that in a little bit. Do that first. And then I'm going to be putting just enough water in there until it comes together. And I'm going to switch over to my hands. And now is where I'm going to switch over to my hands so we don't break up that butter too much. We just want to create a dough. Okay. Feel like it might need a little bit more water. And then I'm going to split it into 2, one for the top and one for the bottom. But it's going to need to chill for about an hour. So I cooked my apples down, and this is what I used for the filling part. So we have a half a cup of brown sugar, a half a cup of regular sugar, 3 tablespoons of flour, about 3 tablespoons of butter, and about 3 tablespoons of water. All equal. I like to make it very simple. And then we have about a teaspoon of, we have a teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of allspice. You can adjust those spices for how you like them. I don't like them to be too prominent, but some people like more of them. You can add any spices you want to this. It's basically the sugar that we need to make sure to add and the flour to thicken it up.
So I'm just gonna stop myself right there because surprise, surprise, again, I did not film myself adding the apples to my crust. Of course, I also did not film myself creating the lattice top. Go figure. I have no idea why I didn't do that. I guess it just wasn't in my brain. So, yes, it's gonna be magically to the next step to where I put the egg wash on. So exciting. Through the magic powers that be, here is my perfectly imperfect lattice top apple pie that is going to get an egg wash shortly.
Well done.
Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine.
Mission complete.
Please hold the line, and we will answer you shortly. We apologize for the wait, and will answer you shortly.
I swear, as soon as I start to record, always. Nothing is as American as apple pie, or is it? Hell, I pressed it. Oh my god.
This is only a test. Testing, testing. 1, 2, and 3.
Nothing is as American as apple pie.
Nothing is as American as apple pie. Apple pie. Apple pie.
Apple pie.